Hello, everyone. Hi, this is Martha. I am a relationship counselor and clinical sexologist. And today I have a question, and this is an actual question from someone. And so I did reply to this person already, but I thought I will make a video so that I can be more thorough. Sorry, I'm just reading my screen. I had a really long day today, and it's now 8 p.m. in Singapore. And I promised myself that I will make a video today. So here I am. My day is not over, and I'm making this video. If one of the couple has certain sex preference, example, oral sex, the husband wants the wife to swallow his sperm, etc., and the other one can't accept it, what can the couple do? So my name is Martha. I'm a relationship counselor and clinical sexologist. I've been practiced for 11 years, and being a Singaporean in Singapore, I work with a lot of Asians, and it is very common in my work that a lot of heterosexual couples who come to see me, the woman especially is very uncomfortable with giving oral sex, much less swallowing the sperm. Sorry, not the sperm, the ejaculation. And I think we need to look at who the person is and what is their background, what is their educational level in terms of not just like degree, but also their sex education. And sometimes they have inhibitions. And one of the common things that I hear is they're not comfortable with oral sex because ultimately this is where they pee from, it's dirty. And then I would invite them to think about how about if they wash it and clean it, is it still dirty? So I start to plant a seed, and you may have heard me talk about it in my previous videos. I always talk about planting little seeds because you don't really want to shame people when they're already inhibited and they're scared and they're opening up to you, and then you start to challenge them in a very aggressive way. I try to be really gentle to plant a seed. And so there are many ways I can answer this question. I just want to talk about in general, okay? In general, let's not talk about the specific oral sex and the swallowing of the semen. Let's talk about certain sexual preferences. So if you are with friends and they have a certain preference of where to go, if you don't care, you will just go with them to eat whatever they want to eat because you don't really have an opinion. So I would say you're more neutral about it. Neutral doesn't mean you're happy or unhappy. It just means you don't really care. And so when we talk about preference, also the word preference, as you can tell, it is not a must. It is a like to have. A like to have means that there is a choice. In a long-term relationship, when you are in a monogamous relationship, and the only person who can give you your sexual satisfaction and meet your sexual needs is your partner, and you are just expressing your desires and saying that it's a preference, meaning that it is still a choice, it's not a must. And what happens is when this preference is expressed in a way that demeans the partner, shames the partner, blames the partner, then it is, honestly speaking, it's just abuse. Abuse doesn't have to be physical, it can be psychological. Even the way you communicate to your partner can be abuse. And I have clients who shout and scream at their partners, show black face, passive aggressive. This is also abuse. I think in our culture, because of the lack of relationship know-how, the lack of relationship skills and training, say for instance the lack of sexuality education. So a lot of people think sexuality education is just how to have sex. Sexuality education has to do with everything around you, the sexual person, and also about having healthy relationships, how to find a partner, how to communicate, how to negotiate, how to speak your truth. And unfortunately, when we are not educated to do this, especially it's Asian culture, just shut up and look pretty. Don't challenge authority. Obey your husband. Respect your elders. often people find they end up in situations where they are really, really stuck. So when it comes to a preference, if you have a strong opinion about something, coming back to the example of if you go and go for a meal with your friends, they have a strong sexual preference, and you also have a preference, then you kind of weigh it. Okay, this time your turn, next time my turn. And what happens now is in this situation, this person has a preference. It means it's not a must, and the person cannot accept it. So rather than say, no way, go to hell, you pervert, moron, blah, 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 start to do name callings, being very judgmental. And actually, sometimes the reaction, more than the topic itself, the reaction actually scares your partner. And when you keep scaring your partner in this way, they actually start to shut down. So I know I'm making this very general, and it may seem like I'm siding the man, but actually I want to say this appears in all relationships regardless of gender, sexual orientation. It's just that this question is phrased in a way that includes oral sex, husband, wife, so I'm answering in this way. So when there are sexual preferences, it means that it's not a must, it's a choice. However, when you're the only one in a monogamous relationship that can satisfy the needs of your partner and they express their desires and you have a very adverse reaction, you actually shut down communication, not just for this topic, but possibly other topics, because they start to become wary and afraid of your reaction. And if you cannot accept it, one of the things is to invite a discussion instead. Rather than say, no way, blah, 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 instead of doing name calling, what you can do is be curious. I'm just curious, what is it that makes you want to do that? If you have more understanding of your partner and your partner also sees things from your point of view, sometimes a discussion doesn't have to end with a conclusion. It can just be something that you just plant a seed, and then you can say, let me sit with it, and let me read up more about it. Let me talk to a counselor. Let me talk to my friends, and see how they feel about it, because I've never really thought about giving oral sex and swallowing and what it tastes like. Maybe it might be useful for me to attend a workshop on fellatio, which I run. I run a workshop on fellatio. I run a blowjob workshop. And in my blowjob workshop in Singapore, always run it with carrots. And in that session, we do talk about our attitudes around oral sex. We talk about swallowing. We talk about deep throat. We talk about techniques. We talk about the taste. And it is a space that people who are curious about giving fellatio to learn about this. And the thing is, I have had people who are very anti fellatio. They think it's very disgusting, demeaning. I think the way they think has to do with, a lot of times, first of all, fear and lack of more knowledge. And so when they have more information, and some of my clients actually start to change their mind and become more comfortable with the whole act of it as another way to express their love with their partner. And so in this particular question, now I answered like sexual preferences in general is a choice. Have a discussion. The next thing is in this specific question, because this person also asked an example. So oral sex, like I mentioned, with more education, the person can become more comfortable with the act of oral sex. The next thing is the husband in this question wants the wife to swallow the sperm. One of the things that some people are afraid to swallow the question says sperm, but it should be semen. Some of the people that I know of are afraid to swallow the semen because they don't know what it tastes like. So what if they try it and see how they think and feel about it? The smell and the taste can be very different. Or you could have a compromise. You could say, okay, let me get used to giving oral sex first. And then later on, it could be, let me see if I'm comfortable with you ejaculating in my mouth first. And ejaculating in the mouth is not the same as swallowing. And I have clients who are uncomfortable to give oral sex because they're afraid the person will ejaculate in their mouth. So what if there was no ejaculation in the mouth and it was just oral sex for pleasure's sake? Instead of trying it for 10 minutes until the person ejaculates, why not try it for 1 minute and see how that feels like? So instead of making it really like a big thing, there are a few things going on. First, put it in your mouth, ejaculate, and then swallow. It's like this huge thing when they can't even be comfortable with the idea of even giving oral sex. So breaking down into smaller, little achievable um, steps, break it down, is kind of like also being more respectful to your partner, because it's not just about me and my needs and my wants. It's also where's my partner at and how comfortable is my partner. And you'll be surprised, okay? As long as you're willing to keep the dialogue going and your partner feels that the reason why you're willing to keep the dialogue going is because you care about them, you care about their needs, wants, and preferences, then isn't that communicating love? And so an act can be love. Food is love, money is love. It is the intent behind it. So when it comes to sex, even though you're uncomfortable about something, read about it. Is it really dirty and disgusting? Is it really a taboo thing? Is it really a thing that we Asians don't do? Is it something that has been invented in the last 10 years, 100 years? Oral sex is something that has been done for thousands and thousands, thousands, thousands of years. So how can it be that something that is a normal sexual behavior now called a fetish, now called a kink, now called a disgusting, dirty thing? So sometimes when I invite my clients to think about this, they kind of go, yeah, I never thought about it, because a lot of times the reaction that comes from them is exactly what I'm just saying, is a reaction. And so without really thinking through, without really discussing, without really connecting to what it really means to their relationship and the expression of love, is much easier, isn't it, to just shut down the conversation and go no way. I think we go no way when we are afraid of something, when we don't know about something, and we don't want to go there. But in a long-term relationship, when you are the source of your partner's pleasure, besides giving himself pleasure or herself pleasure or themselves pleasure, it really is kind of a mutual thing. It would be great if my clients can see that their sexuality is an ongoing relationship. It's a evolution. It does evolve, and it can evolve only by not scaring off your partner, not judging, scolding, shaming, blaming, yelling at them. Be really like encouraging and supportive and giving them the resources and the information and the support. So if your partner says, oh no way, it's disgusting, how dare you ask me to do this? Invite, invite a question, invite a discussion, sweetheart. Um, if I wash my genitals, is it still dirty? What makes you think it's dirty? Where is this dirty coming from? So can you see, even the tone can be really gentle and can be um, about not taking it personal, because sometimes their reaction is not about you, it's not a rejection of you. And unfortunately, it can hurt us because of the way they're expressing it without any consideration of our desires. And so try, try to not take it personal. So I'm going to summarize what I just said so that it's clearer. Um, if you don't mind, it's been 14 minutes already. Preference is something that there is a choice, and a preference essentially is an expression of desire. Just because they don't have to have it, it doesn't mean that they don't like to have it, and maybe they are curious. So how about, instead of shutting down your partner and going into reaction, how about having a discussion about the why? When you have a better understanding of their why, maybe you change your mind. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see that. I would love to be the one to give you pleasure. Then coming back to um, oral sex, as I mentioned, this is something that you see, sex is often something that is done in private. We don't see people doing this. And we when we watch people having sex in porn, we just think, oh, these are just deviant people. I'm not like that. And people who don't have much sex education, people who have led a very sheltered life, they don't see they don't see oral sex as common sexual behavior. And when it comes to the swallowing of the semen, if someone is not comfortable with giving, how can they let the person ejaculate and much less swallow? So a few things going on. Why not break it down into smaller steps? So I actually have 2 other videos on oral sex on YouTube. You can look at them. In fact, they were the ones that I already sent to this person. So look at them, because the answers that I'm giving are very dependent on the questions, and the question also has a tone. And I do have people emailing me their questions. However, I don't always answer all of them, especially when the person doesn't take any effort whatsoever to help themselves. If you just ask me a question that can be Googled, like, what does this, like, and I have 800 videos on YouTube. Did you look at what I already have? So a lot of times, the most common question I get asked is it normal to masturbate? How often should people be having sex? Is masturbation a sin? How often should uh, uh, yeah, I just said this. How often is how many times a day is too much masturbation? I have tons and tons and tons of videos on the same question. because because they don't look, because it's already there. So please support my work. I have Patreon. I have an email newsletter. I do run a lot of free campaigns. Next month in May, I have Celebrating Pleasure. I'm teaming up with Dr. Peter Howie, and the way we are doing it is he gets to support the people with penises. I support the people with vulvas, so that we create a safer space for discussions. Because what has happened in my experience is, unfortunately, all gender groups, um, the women end up getting harassed, and I mean harassed. And I have women like who have gone through sexual trauma, being re-traumatized from people who are unconscious and harassing them. Like, one person said, this person is contacting me and like shouldn't be contacting me, even though that is the group rule. They are still being contacted. And so then they block this person, and then the next day, same person, another person contacts her again, another person. So 2 days in 2 days in a row, this person was harassed. So guess what? The person left. It's not safe. So how can I protect? How can I protect people who are so vulnerable? I have to create separate groups. And I wish that the world was much more conscious. I wish I didn't get abused in my YouTube comments about how I look, how my lips are, how beautiful I am. Like, is it a compliment, or is this a genuine compliment, or is this like sexualizing me, the sex educator? Sometimes it's really frustrating. Frustrating. So anyway, this is my video. Thanks for watching it. And I'm gonna make another video, because hey, I'm on a roll. I'm gonna make a video. Okay, so there's gonna be another video coming in like 5 minutes. So stay tuned. You want to check out that video, because I'm gonna do a personal sharing. Yes.